Rutgers G drives for Uber while awaiting NFL call. Dorian Miller didn't spend the week of the NFL draft getting last-minute alterations to his flashy suit, or going through the car wash of radio and television appearances, or endorsing a product for a company he signed a deal with. The ex-Rutgers guard, who started 34 games for the Scarlet Knights, is projected to be either a late-round pick or undrafted free agent, so he kept his head down and did his workouts. And he drove for Uber Eats and Lyft, his sole source of income as he waits for a call from the NFL. This is life in NFL draft limbo. It's a mentally challenging process, Miller said earlier this week. I did my local, pro, days, I've spoken to some coaches, I've gotten some good feedback, but I'm operating under an umbrella of uncertainty. Jessica Harwood. That's part of this roller coaster ride for him and the countless others who may not hear their names called by the end of Saturday's day 3. There are days he gets his hopes up when he hears from his agent or trainers that teams have asked about him. I've heard from coaches, when they've asked about me, they've been impressed with me and how I handle my business, he said. They say I look good on film and that playing against great competition is definitely a plus. But Miller has Mother Nature working against him. At 6'2" and around 300 pounds, he doesn't have the size of other, higher-rated guards. His father Jeremy is quick to point out his arm length, a key stat with offensive linemen, is good enough to put him with his peers. But he knows he's at a disadvantage regardless. I'm not a super freak, a guy that's 6'5", 330 with super long arms, Miller said. He got to watch as his college teammate, defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph, run a sub-5-second 40-yard dash and suddenly get individual interviews by NFL teams. There are, however, other positives to Miller's game. Dorian is every coach's dream, said Kevin Dunn, who has trained Miller and other NFL draft prospects at Test Football Academy in New Jersey, some 10 miles from Rutgers campus. The guy does everything he's asked to do without question, shows up to work. I've never heard him complain once about the process. He's very humble. It doesn't impact his belief in himself that he can play at the next level. Miller, the son of a former high school football player, grew up in Metuchen, New Jersey watching NFL films. He was in attendance the day the Scarlet Knights pulled off an unlikely upset of number 3 Louisville in 2006 and eventually ended up recruited to the school that was basically in his backyard. He had his eye on the NFL but it wasn't always in clear sight. Jessica Harwood, 1 year, a former Indianapolis Colts scout who was invited by then-coach Kyle Flood to work with the team, pulled Miller aside. You have the ability to play on the next level, Miller remembers hearing. You have to believe. It's led him to this point, but because he's not projected to be chosen, it means he has to earn money the hard way, unlike players who might go early. Dunn explains that agents will cover expenses for a highly rated player who will soon earn the massive contract, knowing they'll be paid back for their investment. There are a bunch of guys who have undrafted free agent status. They have to work to provide for themselves and their families, Dunn explained. Sometimes, they're finishing a semester at Rutgers, so they'll have housing. If guys need to earn extra few bucks, it's incredible to see the sacrifices that are made to put their body through what it needs to go through to make it at the next level and then work 20 hours to make ends meet. And that's where Uber Eats comes in for Miller. He'll work out at Test each morning, then take advantage of the lunch rush by flipping on his Uber availability and making deliveries from about 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. or longer. Living near a college campus helps, particularly when he can do late-night food deliveries. If he has to meet with his agent or has other football duties to attend to, he can work around that schedule. That's why he's pitched the app to fellow Test prospects. Jessica Harwood. Although Miller loves to listen to podcasts or music while earning money, there are times on the road when questions about his future inevitably creep in. One advantage to being a new fan is the ability to choose where to play, assuming a player gets multiple offers from NFL franchises. But if Miller doesn't get a call, he's thought about playing in Canada, or perhaps start working toward some kind of college football recruiting job. He's curious about a career in the music world, His father Jeremy Miller was once the president and CEO of The Source magazine, and was friendly with some big-name artists. Jeremy remembers being in Miami with his wife and kids, and rapper Paul Wall babysat Dorian and his brothers to give the couple a night out. The elder Miller is also partially an inspiration for his son's Uber shifts. After leaving The Source, he ended up driving for the company and eventually started his own private driving business. "It's helped him to see I went through a transition in my career," Jeremy Miller said. "I think I was kind of a testing ground to prove that whether it's in a pinch for the short term, or in the long term as a full-time job, Uber really filled a gap for me." He'd be Ubering on Saturday to pass the time, but he's got something more important lined up. The Miller family will be at Marshall University to see Dorian's younger brother Devin play in the Thundering Herds spring game. It'll be a good distraction, although he's hoping his phone rings unexpectedly on Saturday. Until then, he's got to earn some money to pay for that West Virginia trip. "Once we hang up," he said, "I'm going on the clock." The call quickly ended, and Miller was on his way. More, grading all 32 first-round picks in the 2018 NFL Draft. Cardinals, Colts and Chargers get an A+. What time does the second round of the 2018 NFL Draft start? J.J. Watt reminds everyone Texans fans hated him at the 2011 NFL Draft. 11 players who could be NFL Draft steals. See Baker Mayfield's priceless reaction to Jimmy Kimmel's 016 Browns joke.